I've had several what I think are very important conversations with Army senior leaders about this issue of whether time spent in developmental positions, and notably I mean educational positions, positions outside the operating force, whether they are a tax on the Army or an investment. And I think that they are generally seen when the requirements are most difficult. I think they do tend to be seen as a tax, and yet it's my role as the trade-out commander to articulate and advocate that they're an investment. I heard Ed Cardone, I think, out of Fort Leavenworth describe something which I think is worthwhile mentioning, and that is that if you talk to a young officer, they will typically tell you that they had their aha moment, if you will, in an operational assignment. Whether it was company or troop command or S3 or XO. And yet, if you talk to an officer, a field grade, a senior field grade and above, so maybe there's a 15-year break point there. If you talk to an officer in the second category, 15 years and above, they'll generally tell you that their aha moment came in some educational or developmental experience. And I think that's right. You've always got the youngsters who think, unless they're doing exactly what they think the Army's supposed to do, carrying a rifle or driving a tank or firing an artillery piece, that they're out of the mainstream. And yet it is the educational experiences we all come to realize. It's the educational experiences that allow the light bulb to go on in the first place. I have actually thought about personally and also been asked about lateral entry by even folks in my partners in the Human Capital Enterprise, in the Office of the ASA MNRA, and elsewhere, because people are, it's at some level, it's a response to the gap we have experienced in field captains and field grades. I think the latest numbers, we're about 4,000 short, right in the middle of our officer corps, and people are wondering, is lateral accession an option? And it's seductive, but I don't think it's feasible, and potentially more important, I don't think it's appropriate. And I say appropriate because we, from the very first moment we raise our right hand and decide that we will support and defend, and we take on these Army values, selfless service. We set aside personal comfort, the pursuit of wealth. I mean, the things that we take on as leaders. I don't know how someone, forget the technical aspects of lateral accession, but I don't know how someone would become part of the profession of arms if they've come in laterally and then are given responsibilities equal to those that have gone through the various gates and the various crucibles along the way. I'm sure it would be possible in some of the technical branches. It would be, I should say, feasible. But again, I don't think it's an appropriate response to our challenge. I think if we start to do that, we could potentially convince ourselves that we don't need to put as much emphasis on retention as we have in the past. And that, I think, would be a major mistake.